Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather, and on this channel we like to walk a very fine line between a shopping addicted makeup monster and a responsible adult with a makeup hobby. Now, I really enjoy eyeshadow singles, duochromes, blush, highlight, lip gloss, basically everything except pressed glitter, and today we are finally going to be doing my Profusion palette ranking. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick with me, we're getting into it right now. And in this ranking, I'm going to be including 10 of their 16 pan palettes. So the 16 pan palettes are the ones that look like this, and they retail for about $5. You can get them at Walmart. I have seen them on Profusion's website. I have not seen them at Walgreens, although Walgreens tends to carry other Profusion products. They tend to get more of the holiday products. But these, Walmart and their website. Now, I am going to be putting up some looks that I've done, at least one look that I've done with each of these palettes, so that you can kind of get an understanding for the actual palette quality, but then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about them as well. I will also insert some swatches. Do I have swatches of all of them? I hope. Alright, so let's get started because I am taking up way too much time. Coming in at number 10 is the Profusion Neons palette, which looks like this. And while it looks spectacularly bright and bold in the actual palette itself, it is very, very light. This is actually the palette that I'm wearing today. Please ignore the shimmer all over my lids. The thing that's actually beautiful about this eye look, that's not from this palette. This is the only time where I had to go outside of the lines to finish a look, because otherwise I'd have to do an entirely matte look with this palette. There's only one satin shade, which is this shade right here, and it's just, it doesn't give me enough oomph. It's actually on my lower inner third of my lashes, and I'm sure you can't even see it from where you're sitting because it is so lackluster. That's the best word I can use. This palette in general I feel is more of a pastel palette rather than a neon palette. If you are light, medium, or darker, it is unlikely you're even going to see this show up on your skin tone. The swatches that I did for this palette actually do look pretty good. They're deceptive in that way. But I think the colors in here, number one, you have too many of these pinky red shades, and number two, the colors just fade throughout the day. Like when I started my day, my blue was very bright and vibrant. We are only about halfway through my day, and I'm not impressed by where the blue is at right now. So for me, this came in at number 10. Coming in at number 9 is the Sapphires palette, and this one looks like this. And again, I'll have some swatches put up here for you. Now, the one thing that I really like about this palette is this inner corner highlight. It's a white iridescent shade that shifts to a little bit of blue. I used it on the inner corner when I did the look that I'll put up on the screen. Here's my issue. This aqua shade, I don't think it pairs very well with the rest of the colors here in the palette. I think everything else kind of fits together a little bit better, but the aqua sort of sticks out. It's a little bit odd with the rest of the colors in this palette. I also feel like these browns, they're both too light. There's nothing deep and dark other than the black. So you kind of have an abrupt blend there. This is so light when it's actually put onto the eye, and this is so dark, you don't get a nice transition even with significant blending. So I really find that quite frustrating. The other thing I find frustrating is that other than this ill-placed aqua shade and this brown, you don't have any really nice blue metallics. These two shades, while they appear metallic in swatches, are actually more of a satin, and they act that way as well. That also makes it a little bit more challenging to blend the blues together when you're using the blues to make it like a deeper smoky look. So all in all, while I appreciate where they were trying to go with this palette, I just don't think they picked the right depth of tones for each of these shades that they put in here, and I don't think the quality of the metallics is enough to rank this one any higher. So, coming in at number 8 is the Rubies palette, and it is this red monochromatic palette here. It looks like this. So I was super drawn to this palette because of these really smoky red shades as the metallics. I thought that was going to make really beautiful eye looks. I would say that the color story, of course, very monochromatic, which is part of why it ranked a little bit lower, because there's only so many looks you can do with this. And the reds in here, while they look very red here, they definitely pull somewhat pink on the lids. So when you start to blend them out, they pull pink very quickly. So this stops being a red palette and becomes a pink palette. The other thing that I don't like is the fact that these 4 matte shades here, they all look very similar. When you start to try to blend them together to make a nice gradient, you got nothing. So I find that a little bit frustrating. I do appreciate that you have two deeper shades here, but all the rest of these mattes, they pretty much just look the same. The metallics are nice, but I did also get some eye irritation with this palette, and I am not one to get eye irritation from eyeshadow. I will sometimes get it from eyeliners or mascaras, but not eyeshadow. So that was kind of unusual for me. I'm not sure if that's related to this palette or not, but I thought it was worth mentioning. I will of course put up the eye look that I did. The eye look was nice, but it just didn't wow me, so it dropped lower because of that. And this next palette was actually the one that I thought was going to be number 1, and it dropped all the way to number 7. That's pretty shocking to me. And that is the Profusion Emeralds palette. This palette is so, I love the color story of this one. I don't too much care for these shades here, although this is a very pretty like red to gold duochrome. I really focus in on the greens, and the look that I did, you'll see that I focused in on the greens a lot. The reason why this one dropped a little bit lower is number 1, I don't have enough depth here. These two shades are very similar on the eyes. When you blend them together, they look almost identical. And then I don't have anything deeper than that. Like a green, almost black would have been perfect. This sort of aqua teal green is just, it's not dark enough. It's too bright for what I need. So the color story itself could use a little bit of help. The other thing is this really, really beautiful shade here. It's that like green to almost black duochrome type shade. Very, very pretty when you first put it on. Despite having a glitter glue on, by about midday through the day, rude, by about midday through the day, this was already starting to wear off. I did have a little bit of like fallout throughout the day, which is again unusual for me. I use a glitter glue every single time I do my eyeshadow. This metallic just could not hold up. It ended up getting very patchy, and I could actually see through this very dark shade to the skin tone of my lids by the end of the day. Not a fan. So I do like the color story. I think there are things that are missing about the color story to make it a little bit better, and I was really disappointed by the metallic, so it dropped a little lower because of that. Alright, now we start getting into stuff that I'm like, okay, you could buy that. That would be reasonable. And this is, what, number 6? Yeah, this is coming in at number 6, and it's the Profusion Mauves palette. Now, this one obviously is not a terribly unique color story, which is why it went a little bit further down in the rankings, but I do think that the color story itself is very pretty. When I did an eye look with this, I really liked how it looked, and it held up very nicely throughout the day. This particular metallic here called Ooh La La, first of all, you can see how much like light reflection that has from head on to like side view. Beautiful light reflection. It also has this larger particle shimmer in it that sort of gives your eyes kind of that like glittery ethereal look. I do really appreciate that. I think that is something special compared to some of these other palettes and the shimmers in the other palettes. I like that you have a good amount of depth here. You have one matte with sparkles, so if you're not a huge fan of that, just know this one has one in it, but I really don't think those sparkles show up appreciably in your eye look. And I do like that there are two kind of lighter shades here that you could use as inner corner highlights or, you know, brow bone highlight, things like that. Overall, I think this is a really pretty color story. Because it is not terribly original, it ranked a little bit lower, but I do think if you are looking for something like day-to-day or a travel-worthy makeup that would be pretty easy to replace if it got damaged, this would be a great choice. Coming in at number 5 is the Profusion Citrine palette. Now, this one I did not expect to rank this high. It was actually the most recent one that I picked up in my quest to collect all these palettes. And I picked this up because I'm always on the hunt for an iridescent, like yellow metallic that is not a gold. So there's a difference between a yellow metallic and a gold metallic, right? Very, very occasionally do I find something that is a yellow metallic, but this looked very promising, so I picked it up. And it is. It's really pretty. It has almost a like a tiny hint of like a blue shimmer to it, which I also kind of like, and I think it makes the inner corners look really nice and bright and poppy. The mattes in here I do think are pretty. I think we could have benefited from a little bit more variation between these 3 mattes though. Something that was like a really bright, vivid yellow would have been great, but this does have a good amount of depth. And then you've got, you know, kind of this medium mid-tone shades over here. I don't think these 2 shades go dark enough for what I want them to do. However, I will say that pretty much every other yellow monochromatic palette I've ever tried does this same exact thing. They get to like a honey, golden, tan, amber kind of color and then stop. They don't go any darker. I don't know if that's because they're trying to stick to like all yellows per se, and dark yellow is brown, or if they just don't think you need that much depth and want it to be like a lighter, brighter palette. But for me, I'd prefer a little bit more depth there. The metallics in this palette are very, very pretty, and they blend very nicely together. The look that I made with this one, I really, really liked. So that is why it came all the way up to number 5. Coming in at number 4 is the Fuchsias palette, and this one is like a really pretty combination of a couple of like rosy neutrals with pops of pink and purple. So this and this pool definitely very pink. These definitely pool very purple. You've got kind of this fuchsia shade here, and then everything else I think is kind of like rosy neutrals. I do think these colors work really nicely together. This inner corner highlight, I'm not super impressed by it. I'm not wowed by it. But the rest of these mattes I think blend really beautifully together, and I love that you have the depth of this purple. Even if they had made it like a scotch darker, I would have really liked that, because it gives a lot of depth to the eye look and gives some shadow there so that there is a distinct difference between the shades that you're looking at. So I do really appreciate that. The metallics in here, like these two in particular, they're very satin. So again, it falls a little bit lower in my ranking because of that. I think the mattes are great in this one, but the metallics are kind of so-so. The next one, this is palette number 3. This is the Violets palette. And I really wasn't expecting this one to come up this high because it does have like a good amount of neutrals, but I did really like this color story. I will say this lilac shade here is very, very soft, definitely leans more pastel, and it almost doesn't show up on my skin tone, which is quite fair. So if you have a like light eye base or like a white primer or something like that, I would consider using that if you're trying to use that shade, because it would really benefit. I do love this inner corner. It's a very, 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 very soft like ballet slipper pink with purple sparkles in it. Very pretty. And I love the depth of the shades that you get over here. Going all the way down to this fudge shade gives you this beautiful smoky purple look. Like, you will just really, really appreciate that. Again, the metallics in here, like these two in particular, they pull very satin. I wasn't a huge fan of them. I personally have a pretty good indie collection and lots of singles that have really special like shimmers and things like that. So you really have to wow me with like a standard metallic for me to be raving about it. These just didn't. They're only $5 though. So if you're looking for something with some mattes, you have some other singles you could pull in, that might work really well for you. I do think it's worth it though for this shade and the mattes that you have in here. Coming in at number 2, when I picked this one up, I immediately thought it was going to oust the Emeralds palette, and it did, but it didn't make it to all the way to number 1, which was, again, quite surprising for me. And this is the Euphoria palette. Mine looks a little beat up because Walmart sent it to me half demolished. I had to repress things myself. But this is the color story here. I love this formula here. This shade, this shade, this shade, this shade. This is a different metallic formula than what is in some of these other palettes. It is not that like very soft satin formula at all. It's a really beautiful, thick, kind of buttery metallic formula. I really like it. This palette I do think has some great depth because you go all the way to black or to navy blue. I think this blue is kind of out of place. I would have liked maybe a softer version of more of like a navy blue, but like very light, very what do I want to say, desaturated, would have been a little bit better. This almost pulls too teal to fit with everything else. But I do think the color story is very pretty. I love this kind of icy taupey metallic as well. The purple again kind of sticks out a little odd, but you could do some really cool like monochromatic gray looks and use a pop of purple. It would look awesome. I did get a little bit of patchiness with some of the mattes in this particular palette, but I think that may have been due to my primer. What else do I want to say for this palette? Overall, I did really like the look for this palette. I think it is worth your $5 and then some just for the color story alone. I think it's a very creative color story. So it made it all the way up to number 2 for that reason. And then number 1 out of all of my 10 Profusion palettes actually goes to the Smokey palette. Now you guys know me, clearly I am not a neutral wearer on a regular basis. But whenever I use this palette and I make like a cool tone smoky look, I really like how it comes out. What I tend to use are these two mixed together as like my above the crease shade, this into my crease, and then this blended in my outer corner. And then I put some of this bling shade with the bewitched shade. Those shades together I think make a really, really beautiful eye look. I tend to skip these two shades and nutmeg because I just don't think they're special enough to even bother with. But I think for your $5, the rest of this palette is completely worth it. This bling shade has such a nice light reflection. I'm sure you can see there to there. You can see how much light is actually getting reflected in that shade, and it just looks so beautiful on the lids, like even just diffused out over the lids. In combination with other palettes, I think this would also be really, really pretty, and it would stand up nicely. If you're somebody that's considering things like the Natasha Denona, what is it, the Glam palette, the gray one, that's $65. This is only $5. Yes, there is definitely a difference in the shades, in the quality, in the formulas, but this can give you a really similar vibe, and for $5, it's a really, really reasonable purchase. Alright, and with that said, that is everything for this video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go. If you've tried any of the Profusion palettes, definitely let me know in a comment down below which ones did you really like and why. I would love to hear from you guys. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye!